6:30, can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we do the moment of silence, I would just like to ask our community to extend their prayers to the Barajas family. Their son was terribly injured in Mexico, and we don't really know the outcome of it yet, but the Barajas family is business owners in Homer Glen. They've been here for many, many years. So if we could please extend our prayers to their family. And also to keep Steve McMichael in our prayers. He is back in the hospital, so we don't really know the outcome of that as well, but we're hoping that he's home soon. I would like to dedicate the moment of silence tonight to Greg Grimm, who passed away yesterday. Greg was a longtime staple in this community. He was a well-known landscaper, and he was really known for his creative and beautiful landscapes that he did. So if we could please have a moment of silence. Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Mason.
Present.
Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Madam President Pro Tem Reinders.
Present. Okay, we don't have any community recognition tonight, but what I would like to know if there's any amendments to the agenda.
Yes.
Okay,
There
Trustee
are.
Fialco.
I'd like to move 8 to 14. So it'd be L8 to 14.
Okay, L8.
Because that almost looks like it's set up like a workshop anyway, so.
Okay. Any other amendments to the agenda?
I have a question because I have two different, I have one that I had printed out. Do we have on the updated agenda K2 as the bills for the attorney?
No,
Okay, then I would like to pull that out of,
they're not on the consent agenda. It's been pulled out
pulled.
already.
Hold on, let me see.
It's
I've got
actually,
like two different,
No, the one without it.
actually, it's L13. Oh, I'm sorry, it's L12,
it's, okay,
L12.
Yep, this is.
okay,
this-
thank you. Okay, then we're good.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Trustee Fialco, Trustee Consolino? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Okay, amendment passes. Approval of the minutes.
I'll make that
Diane.
motion.
Okay, give me a chance to even say it. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of February 14th, 2024, special village board meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
February 15th, 2024.
Okay.
And you'll second? Okay, any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Candace, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Abstain.
Trustee Reinders.
Well, I have to,
I still have to vote.
oh,
Oh, no, I don't have to. Okay, all right. I was told I had to vote. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 24th, 2024 village board meeting?
I will also make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
No, ma'am.
No,
None.
ma'am? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May 8th, 2024 village board meeting? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Please call the roll, Candace.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May 8th, 2024, Village Board meeting?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Trustee Fialko, Trustee Mason. Okay, any discussion?
None.
No,
Candace,
ma'am.
please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Abstain.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Okay, moving along. Public comment. Do we have a sheet, Village Manager? Okay. John Walters? Your time is 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll try to, I might talk fast, I got a couple things. First, I'd like to start with a prayer for us. Heavenly Father, we gather here today to seek your guidance, wisdom as we begin this village board meeting. We are grateful for the opportunity to serve our community and ask that you bless our discussions and decisions. Grant us the clarity and insight to make choices that will benefit all our residents, fostering unity, growth, and prosperity. Help us to listen with open hearts and minds, show respect and understanding to each other's perspectives. As we work together, may we be inspired by the dedication and the spirit of American patriots who have shaped the nation with courage and commitment. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so can local governments or any government body really be flexible? Decisions were made years ago and the circumstances have changed. Should the decisions be ever revisited? I guess the answer here is no, and with the yes vote tonight, the village will move blindly to move back forward with the cul-de-sac road because we need 150 more parking spaces. Even though the board recently approved the purchase of the land at Cream and 151st for $800,000 that can park 700 cars. The villages has been locked on paving over acreage in this pristine prairie land in the middle of our beautiful Heritage Park for years. Now, why? Because the master plan published in 2018 said so? This is my point. Once decisions were made, it seems like we can never be reversed. An example, way back in 2009, the Will County Development and Transportation Plan for a 4-lane divided east-west highway through Homer Township on 143rd Street. After years of typical government slow walking, the state of Illinois funded a complete and major expansion of 159th Street to provide a 4-lane divided highway through Homer Township. So and we don't need 143rd done now. It was insane to spend $60 million more on that project when we already have 159th Street. Do we need the cul-de-sac road? I've said this for years, but because of the master plan in 2018, I guess it never gets canceled. Do we need a road to a sled hill? No. Do we need 150 additional parking places in the middle of Heritage Park? No, especially since we've added 200 spaces to the side of the inside of Heritage Circle Drive and 100 new spaces adjacent to Village Hall, and most recently approved the purchase on Cream Road for 700 spots. The board, who still support the road, show flexibility and concern over recent events when you cast your vote. I beg the board to support and show. And now the vote is to spend $607,000. I just want to know, over these meetings
Time has expired.
Thank you. Over these meetings that I've been to, I've noticed that we want to pave over more of this park and make it an event center. I wonder what Konos and Bankston's thinks about that, this being an event center, and who wants their name on a plaque out here so much that they can't concentrate.
Excuse me, would you like an additional 3 minutes?
The money we would, can I ask for another 3 minutes? I'm not going to get it, but I'll ask you guys.
You can ask the board for an additional 3 minutes.
Can I have another 3 minutes?
I'll make that motion for the 3 extra minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is that for 2.5 minutes now?
That's fine.
All in favor of extending his time for another 3 minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 Okay, now I have to vote? Okay, I oppose. Motion to extend fails. Sorry. Okay, that's it for reports and that's it for public comment. Actually, moving on to reports and communications from the president and other officers. Village manager?
Thank you. In talking to our event staff, Homerfest is in need of volunteers, especially staff or trustees who can work in the beer ticket sales booths. State Bill 3408, the quick take bill regarding the 143rd Street widening by Will County, stalled and did not move on forward this session. Letters of opposition were sent out to the representatives and senators, and we will continue to monitor the situation. Our attorneys have filed with the Illinois Commerce Commission in opposition to the Illinois American water rate increase. We will provide more information as it becomes available to the residents. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you, village manager. Village trustees, let's start with trustee Consolino.
Good evening. Last week, our nation and its allies honored the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. Unfortunately, our village did not acknowledge this historic and somber victory that helped garner our freedoms. Instead, our village chose to make a political statement when we are in fact a nonpartisan governing body. Our village chose to ignore one of our U.S. military's greatest accomplishments by one of our greatest generations and instead put out an alleged press release making a partisan statement against Homer Township. Why did the village do this? Because the village thought it was more important to acknowledge and discredit an action taken by Homer Township for flying the American flag upside down. It's shameful to me that I have to take the time to define to my village board what exactly nonpartisan means, especially when we are all elected to be nonpartisan voting members. To be nonpartisan means that you must act just, impartial, fair-minded, unbiased, and unprejudiced, regardless of what your political views may be. Partisan means a strong supporter of a party, a cause, or a person. The two definitions are very distinct. When a copy of the village's press release was submitted to me for my review last week, I had a lot of comments, and I stated what I thought was actual common sense when it came to my response. My review and my comments were blatantly ignored. The alleged purpose of this press release was meant to explain the difference between the village of Homer Glen and Homer Township. It was also meant to state that the village was not in support of how the flag was flown by Homer Township. I was not provided with the final draft before it was published, and when my family and I read the public release by the village, we were appalled. Let me explain why. As a military wife, I refuse to politic or politicize our veterans or our military. I will never prostitute myself, my family, my husband, the U.S. military, or our veterans. To me, that's the worst kind of disservice and a crime that can be done to those who have sacrificed their lives for our country and for our freedoms. My husband has fought in numerous combat missions. My daughter and I have endured countless deployments, sleepless nights, and having to prepare for the consequences of if my husband did not come home or if he came home maimed or injured. Therefore, on behalf of myself and them, I have earned the right to make a comment regarding what this village put out publicly without my consent. The village's press release was an opinionated statement. It was neither informative or factual. The village of Homer Glen did not poll the over 1,200 veterans of our community to get their opinions or feelings regarding how Homer Township decided to fly the American flag on May 31st. They sure as hell didn't ask my family or my friends in this community on how we felt or for our consent when they stated this: the actions have angered and disrespected not only those who have proudly served our country, but also those critical of the use of our government property to push their own political agenda. This press release was pure conjecture and needs to be called out as such. There was no information provided on how the village of Homer Glen and Homer Township are completely independent governing bodies from one another. There were no facts provided to prove that the opinionated comments were true or represented all the veterans of Homer Glen or the 25,000 residents living here. I state all of this in my review of the first draft that was provided to me. I also explained how although the Village of Homer Glen is nonpartisan and does not vote for elected officials based on their political party, Homer Township does. In fact, Homer Township's residents comprise of over 40,000 people. Those residents are not all inclusive to the Village of Homer Glen. They represent Lockport, Lamont, New Lenox, and unincorporated Orland Park. Those residents overwhelmingly elected an entire township board of 9 Republicans to govern Homer Township in their last election. Homer Township is a partisan governing body, not Homer Glen. Whatever Homer Township officials choose to do with representing and governing our township, it is their prerogative. What Homer Township did by flying the American flag was not illegal. It is within our constitutional freedoms to disagree or agree with it. However, it is not the Village of Homer Glen's job to make a public comment that is not fair, unbiased, or unprejudicial regarding their actions. It's that simple. Press releases and text blasts are meant for informational purposes only. If Homer Township chooses to make decisions and act politically, it is in their authority to do so. This is what their electorates voted for. It's not in ours. At the end of the day, every day, it is our job in Homer Glen to act nonpartisan and represent all of our residents, not just a few. When I stated this formally in regard to the draft of this aberration of a so-called press release, it fell on deaf ears. Maybe now that I've said it loud and clear publicly, our village won't put any further political commentary out on our taxpayer dime. It's illegal to electioneer with our municipality and all that goes with it. The village and the township have an upcoming election in April 2025. Our board, our staff, and our residents need to be extremely mindful of how easily politicking and electioneering can be slipped in where they are legally not permitted and they're unethical. I'm hoping that after tonight, we won't have to worry about this happening again with our village. And I would also like to recommend that if anybody does have a strong opinion as far as our residents are concerned, there is a township meeting, I believe, Monday night. It will be at the Old Town Hall at 7 o'clock. If people want to either disagree or agree, I highly suggest that they go to the proper venue and speak a public comment. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Trustee Consolino. Trustee Mason.
Yes, I have a couple things. First, I want to wish Lieutenant Taylor the very best. He has moved on to bigger and better things. Some of these reasons are for change of pace. Some are because of being disparaged in this room over the years. But regardless, we wish him the very best. And I can't say enough good things about Lieutenant Taylor and his crew. With that being said, I would like to welcome Pete Piazza. I'm sure he's going to be great. His team is basically the same, I believe, Pete. Not to be confused with Mike Piazza, the Mets player, but welcome, Pete, and I'll be working closely with you as we move into the future. Erin Hills, Mead, there's been some complaints about speeding. As usual, the answer is not speed bumps right away. I know a lot of people had reached out to the mayor and requested speed bumps and a couple other things. We'll have to look into that. I'll get with the village manager, Joe Baber. I will also get with Lieutenant Pete Piazza, and we'll see if we can't come up with something. Pete being new will probably teach me a few things. He may be new to the village, but he's got an extensive background. Bottom line, we will look and find out what's best, if it's monitoring and getting data from the area to decide whether we need stop signs or what the next course of action is. But we're going to be looking at that. I'll hold off the rest for old business. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. Trustee Fialko.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Reinders, Mayor Pro Tem tonight. Doing very well. First, I'd like to say welcome to Lieutenant Piazza. Thank you, sir. We're looking forward to working with you and working together. And you have been here in Homer before, and so I welcome you back. In addition to that, Lieutenant Taylor, I'd like to say thank you very much for all that he's helped with. I worked very close with Lieutenant Taylor during Homerfest. Out of the 4 years that I've been involved with Homerfest, we have not had one incident at Homerfest that he wasn't able to take care of right away, and nothing had ever turned into a disaster. He always handled things very well. So we're very fortunate to have had him. But I'd like to say good luck to him and in his future endeavors that he is now taking and doing. In addition to that, Homerfest is 2 weeks away. Our fireworks are on June 27th at dusk. And then we will also have the 28th, 29th, and 30th, all 4 days for Homerfest. We're going to have the open concept again with the stage out from under the tent. So bring your blankets, bring your lawn chairs, and be comfortable and have a good time. The sponsors, what I would like to say in addition to that, if I could, our Homerfest would not be successful if it were not for our sponsors, because by the time all of the sponsors donate their money, the vendors participate, and all of the volunteers for Homerfest, everything comes together. It is zero cost to the taxpayer for Homerfest, and we have a pretty big fest. Now, some other communities pay for their fest, one band cost more than all of Homerfest costs to put on. So we're very fortunate that we have a great committee, we have a great team, we have great staff, and we are very fortunate to be able to work together to bring this to Homerfest every year, or to Homer Glen, bring Homerfest to Homer Glen every year. But I would like to call out our partners and our champion sponsors and the rest. All Around Amusements, and Bankston Farm, our partners, our champions, our Hawk, Chevy, Cadillac, which all three of those donate over $5,000. For the rest of our sponsors, we've got Booth Orthodontics, Chesdon's, Gas and Wash, Homewood Disposal, Meyer, Mugshots, Taza, and if you haven't had the pistachio chicken at Taza, it's my favorite, said that before, HR Green, Bump and Grind, Lakota Group, Culver's, Lakeshore Beverage, Ice Storm Recovery, Bussy Bank, Coldwell Banker, Renewal by Anderson, Power Home Remodeling, Sam's Liquor and Gaming, Tilmar Kennels, ComEd, Nick's Barbecue, Homer Tree Care, and in-kind, we've got in-kind donations where we get a lot of things in lieu of money, is Home Depot, Standard Construction, Portable John, BI Rental, Whitmore Ace, Ethan Fialco with eCycle Technologies. The hospitality room is being taken care of by Davidson's Front Row, Jersey Mike's, and Enzo's Pizza. Also, the last one, I'm sorry, I didn't say this, Lobos and Associates just got signed on as a sponsor today. So thank you to everybody for making Homerfest a success and not costing the taxpayer one dime. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fialco. Trustee Stylen.
Thank you. First of all, I do want to welcome Lieutenant Piaz as well, and thank Lieutenant Taylor for his service here at the village. I was fortunate to work with him as a staff member and a trustee, and appreciated him on many occasions. I would like to comment first about the community-wide garage sale that just happened this past weekend, and to let the residents know that we will be sending out a survey to the people that participated in the sale. Recognize that there are some things that we could do better, and we want to just thank for all the residents that did participate. The Community Development Committee will be meeting tomorrow, and two of the main items we will be tackling is the parade, which will be on August 31st, and I'd like to encourage any community organizations that are interested in participating to contact our events department, and also gearing up for Family Fun Day on August 3rd. And now I would like to just take a moment. I don't usually respond to Trustee Consolino's comments during the board meetings, but I did receive the email regarding the press release, and I did approve it, and I do have a copy. Now that my phone just changed screens, I don't know if I'll get it back. But anyway, the village was receiving a lot of calls. I was receiving calls and emails, and people were very, there were a lot of people that were distressed about the way that the township hung the flag upside down, and they thought that that was the village doing it, because as word and gossip spread, people get the village and township confused very frequently, and the purpose of the release was to just state clearly that we are not the same entities and that that was not something that we supported. Whether we wanted to support it or not was not the issue. That was just not a decision that we made. And I believe that it was fair for the public to know that. And other than that, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Steilen. Village Clerk.
No report.
Okay. Village Attorney.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Briefly, one of the previous board meetings, our office was tasked with monitoring the progress of litigation in case number 2024-CH000084, which relates to certain action that's being taken by the Will County Commissioners. Several of them had filed a lawsuit seeking to enjoin the President's, the Chief Executive's actions in vetoing the 143rd Street expansion bill, which the Commissioners had voted against. The long and the short of it is, just briefly, in my review of the docket to date, the judge that had previously been assigned to handle that case on motion, by a motion brought by one of the Will County Commissioners, that judge has been removed from the case. A new judge will be assigned by the presiding judge for purposes of handling the matter. This happens often, I can tell you, in litigation. When you have multiple parties under Illinois law, every party has the right to a substitution of judge if they elect to use it. So if you have, let's say, 2 plaintiffs and 7 defendants in a particular case, let's just say, each and every one of those folks would have an independent right to request a substitution of a particular judge. You don't have to have any reason for it. You simply say, I'm exercising my right to substitute this judge and please assign a different judge. Now, how do the assignments get made? You know, that I can't tell you. I've never sat in the inner workings of the Chief Judge's office, whether it be in Cook County, DuPage County, or Will County, to see how that process actually takes place. My understanding, though, is that it is a fair process where the Chief Judge, through the powers vested in that office, assigns it. Is it random? Is it by way of who knows what? That I can't tell you. That I don't know. But what I can share with you is that this is something that is routinely done in litigation. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's a bad move that was taken by any of the attorneys that are doing this. This is something which is quite customary. And usually, from a matter of strategy, myself personally, I will use a substitution of judge when I think tactically that'll be in the best position. Meaning, if I know a history of Judge A and that judge does not grant the motions that I typically want to bring in a particular case, obviously I'm going to do whatever I can to bring my motion before the audience, the court, that I think will be most receptive to it. Not to say that's what's happening here, but just to give you an example as to why an attorney may be exercising a substitute. But the long and the short of it is, the case is progressing. My guess would be that shortly there will be more motion practice getting this before the new judge once it's assigned. So I just wanted to give an update in regards to that. Secondly, there is some ICC developments which I'm going to share with the board in executive session. Since it's a matter of trial strategy, we have filed, I can share with you all publicly, we have filed our appearances. Our appearances are of record, my firm on behalf of the Village of Homer, Glen. And which means we are objecting to IAW's proposed rate increase, which is affecting all of us, all of you, the citizens here. And that was by direction of this board. So this board gave us the green light, gave the law firm of Peterson, Johnson, Murray the green light to go ahead and file our appearances and to take steps necessary to preserve and to protect the rights of the citizenry here, which, you know, are feeling the brunt of this rate increase. The ICC is an institution which is going to make the determination if they believe that the rate increase proposed by AEW is justified. And we and a slew of other municipalities and a few of other public entities, and I shouldn't say public entities, but quasi-public entities, nonprofit groups, have taken pleadings and have filed motions to intervene to get standing in this case to assert their bases for why they believe that the IAW rate increase is not justified and why it should not go through. So I will continue to update you all as public information becomes available, but I will be updating the board this evening in private session in regards to some of our overall strategies, which until we develop that strategy, I'm not privy to share with you at this point. Lastly, so we hit the ICC. There was, no, and those are the only 2 items that I have for my report. The remaining deal with land acquisitions, which I'm going to discuss with the executive committee here in executive session. But thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Pasquinelli. Public safety officials. As many of you already know, Lieutenant Taylor has been reassigned to other duties. The mayor and this board and our staff would like to thank him for his service and would like nothing but the best for him in his future endeavors. We would also like to welcome Lieutenant Pete Piazza to Homer Glen. We look forward to working with you to keep our community safe. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. As everybody had introduced me, I greatly appreciate it. I'm Lieutenant Pete Piazza. Just wanted to say I'm a police officer, not a public speaker, and this right now is probably more terrifying to me than any operation I've been on as an operator on our SWAT team for 11 and a half years. I do want to thank Lieutenant Jeff Taylor. I was kind of thrust into this role pretty quickly, but he spent a lot of time with me last week, showing me the ropes, introducing me to all y'all, and so I want to thank him for that. So I officially took over on Monday, and I'm just looking forward to the future that I get to spend with all you guys. So thank you for the introduction and the great welcoming, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, village president. I have lots. Couple of updates. One, due to Homerfest, we will be canceling our June 26th board meeting. The next scheduled meeting will be on July 10th. Also, the Ability Awareness Committee is sponsoring a dunk tank at Homerfest on Saturday, June 29th from 1 to 5 p.m. They are still looking for volunteers, so if anybody would like to volunteer for the dunk tank, Trustee Mason? Please contact Angela McKenna from the Ability Awareness Committee. Lemon Films has concluded their research and their interviews for the film on the history of Homer Glen. They will be premiering the film at Movie Under the Stars in Heritage Park on July 26th. We don't have a exact time yet, but we will be putting that out on the village website. Joe, is there an update on 143rd? I think you had said a little bit, but is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Like the attorney, we're monitoring any court actions regarding that. The state bill, the quick take by the county was dead at this last session.
Yeah, that was really important because it did not make it through. It didn't pass. The bill did not pass for them to do the quick take on 143rd.
Right, it was still sitting committee. It's kind of sitting right now, and we did send out a number of notices in opposition to state senators and representatives. So we'll continue to do so and keep in contact with our local representatives. And
hopefully in the future, we'll have a special meeting to meet with the residents and get their opinions and how they would like us to proceed moving forward. So, also, there will be a special board meeting on June 25th at 6 p.m. That will be a meeting to discuss something we will be discussing tonight in executive session. St. Bernard's is holding their annual fishing derby on Saturday, June 15th. Registration is from 8:30 to 9 a.m. in the morning, with the derby starting at 10 a.m. I would like to take this time in the board and our staff, we would like to welcome Dan, Dan Waddick to our staff as a new events coordinator. We look forward to working closely with him on all of our events that will be coming soon to the village. Something new that the mayor has discussed that she wanted a new tradition on the board level would be to recognize an employee of the village. Excuse me. Tonight, the mayor and this board would like to recognize somebody who made a difference, not only in their job performance, but in the community as well. Tonight, we would like to recognize Jennifer Vittori. Jennifer is certified in aquatics, and when recently called upon for advice to clean up St. Bernard's Pond to get ready for the fishing derby, she did not hesitate. She outlined all the chemicals that they would use and the process that they would need in order to clear the pond so that they would be able to fish in it. Thanks to her expertise, The fishing derby will now be a huge success. I would also like to thank her and her staff for the amazing job in getting all of the veterans banners hung in Heritage Park. They look amazing and our community is loving them. One last thing. Over the past couple weeks, the staff, the trustees, the mayor have been inundated with calls and emails regarding our tattered condition of our flag. We apologize, but has anybody ever stood out in front of this village hall? It is a wind tunnel. I don't care what time of day it is, there could be a block away, not a drop of wind, and you come in front of this village and it's a wind tunnel. So we don't mean any disrespect to our flag or to any of our veterans, but we are having to replace our flags sometimes twice a month because of the wind that's out here and how strong it is and the damage that it does to our flags. So I just want everybody to know that it's not intentional. If you see the flag starting to fray a little bit, it's because we just haven't changed it yet and the wind just destroys them. And we are very, very proud to fly our flag. And that's it for my report. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of May 24th, 2024 through June 13th, 2024 in the amount of $268,839.51. 2, consider for approval the quote from Schroeder Material for the purchase of metal culvert pipes in the amount of $12,178.04. 3, consider for approval pay estimate 2 for DDD construction for the Heritage Park parking expansion project in the amount of $532,696.58. 4, consider for approval the purchase of 2024 Chevrolet Trailblazer in the amount of $25,798. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, legislation and action items.
Rose, may I just for 1 second?
Yes.
We can always, for clarity with a consent agenda, I just think it's important that we say that we had our first A&F meeting, Admin and Finance was back, and all these items on the consent agenda went through Admin and Finance, and they were all unanimous. But we always have the opportunity, if we wish, to pull any one of them items out if somebody has an issue or something came up afterwards. Because we just started again, I thought it was important to just mention. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, moving on, legislation and action items. Consider for approval the mayor's appointment of Catherine Mitchell to the Ability Awareness Committee. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Candace, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve an ordinance granting a variance to reduce the required side yard setback for a shed under 750 square feet from 10 to 0.89 feet for certain real property located in the R2A Single Family Residential District at 14040 South Cedar Road, Homer Glen, Illinois. Homer Glen, this is according to HG-2407-V.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Fialko, Trustee Trustee Mason, sorry about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, can you please call, is there any discussion on this?
There will be.
Yes.
There will be a lot of discussion. So you're going by motions and second first, right?
Right,
Correct?
right.
Okay. I was on the phone with this one a lot today, and I just wanted to be able to explain that first. With Melissa King, I did talk to Lynn McGarry from the Planning Commission. If you look at this, you can see that the Planning Commission wasn't unanimous on this. And also, on page 4, our staff recommendation doesn't support this variance. And so, before we get too far, I hope we can, I'd like to call Lynn McGarry up to the podium just for a second, since she's on the Planning Commission. And if we could get started there, that would be most helpful.
Lynn, you don't mind?
And
Okay.
Lynn, if you could just tell us why it was 4-2 and the complications with this one, because just for a refresher, I've never seen a structure this size that had a cement pad that was approved, right? We have for smaller items and other things like similar to that were very small, but at the same time, this, if we all take a look at the picture, I'm sure everybody did, it's the size of a small house, it looks like. So I'll let you go.
Okay, yeah, it was not unanimous, and I can't speak for the people who voted against it, but it, you know, from what they said, it was more on the principle of setting precedent, which of course we've done before. The 4 people who voted yes, the man built his shed without a permit, he shouldn't have, but he built it 10 feet from what he thought was the property line, because there's a fence there. The 2 pieces of property seem very interdependent on each other. The man next door does not object to this shed, and the man next door has a retaining wall that goes over onto the person who, the owner of the shed's property. So their property lines are blurred to start with. And so that's why I can only tell you why I voted yes. I can't, I hope that does something.
It gets us started.
Gets it started. I believe the man is here. He pulled up.
He was here, he didn't know he was supposed to stay. I think he said he had to be left.
I'm sorry.
If you don't mind, can we move on to Melissa's opinion on this at this point? Because I thought you explained it very well, if you don't mind.
Melissa?
Sure. So when we look at variances, we're looking at specific standards and factors that they're held to in order to change ordinances. And for instance, without going through every finding that we looked at, one of the things that we set and look at is whether or not something's been caused by the owner. And that they can't answer that. I mean, they did cause this. And the village staff is concerned about precedent in this instance, which is basically giving forgiveness for doing work without a permit. And I think that, as Trustee Fialco said, a smaller structure might be considered differently, or even a variance that's a much smaller deviation. But I think the sheer amount of deviation that's involved with this setback reduction was concerning to staff. I think that while there weren't really any items presented of concern, like there's not pooling water, you know, on the south side of the structure right now, or like kind of a public nuisance, I do think that innately a large structure like this being so close to a property line is not what we would want to see. And so that's just, I think generally that's our position.
Okay, thank you, Melissa.
May I finish up with Joe? Because if we approve this, this is where I have a little bit of confusion, right? With Joe, you've been involved with the permitting part. Can I ask Joe?
Village manager?
What I'd like to know from him, though, is if we pass this, how does that impact and make his work harder, right, in the future for other people that would just do this and say it's better to ask for forgiveness than to get the permit, and the fine that might go with it or not?
Okay.
Well, I
Village
think,
manager?
I think, like Melissa said, we've had instances before where people have built structures without permits, and it does set a precedent in the village. If we were to rubber stamp situations like this moving forward, it is a concern.
As far as the fine that goes with this?
Well, the finding, I think, is not, I mean, I think if you're just going to fine them and let it go, people are going to say, well, I'll pay the additional cost to be non-compliant with our code.
Okay, I just understand it to be 3 times the permit fee, which
Right.
isn't that much money.
Right.
And then the cost of going to planning commission, which was $600.
Right.
So I don't know how the rest of the board feels. It's just, to me, and just to cap it off, I think it's a huge structure that is a lot different than a little patio that went over the line, so.
Okay, are you finished? Is that it, Trustee Fielkow?
For me, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Mason?
Yes, ma'am. A lot of the questions have been answered, I guess, because Mr. Fiocco asked everybody here a question or two. But it sounds like I would like to see a fine, and I would like to see him pay for the permit and whatever else he needs to pay for. I don't agree with Trustee Fialco that it's the size of a house, because I wouldn't want to live there if that was the case. It's actually smaller than a house. It's more like it's actually smaller than a garage, but it's about the size of a small garage, but it's larger than a shed. And from what I read, the property lines are blurred, so I get that. I guess my questions at this time would be, do we feel that it will, and this was the only thing that one of the residents was concerned about, was whether it was going to interfere with their septic or not. We don't know that yet, or do we do?
So we had some clarification at the Plan Commission meeting. We do know that there was a reduction granted by the Will County Health Department to 6 from 10. We also know it's a mechanical structure. It's not a septic field, so it does sit relatively close to the shed. If they were going to relocate, it would have to be somewhere else on the property, not right here, because they could not likely move it and just shift it. I think it would have to be relocated to a different section of the property. And the well is in the front yard. We did clarify that. That was it?
Yes, thank you, Melissa. That's excellent intel. Also, I guess the last question I would have was what materials would be used? I know when my father built a garage, a little bit bigger than this one, we used brick all the way up. So what is being used as far as materials on this? Do we know that, Joe? If you mind me asking, Mayor?
Thank you. Yes. No, go right ahead.
I'm sorry? I didn't catch it. Do we know the materials, Joe?
It's my understanding,
I must have missed that piece. I did not see that.
it's my understanding the materials have not been determined at this point,
But we'll have to recode.
but would have to meet code.
Okay, if he stays to code then, and pays some fines, then it's a different story. I'm done. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Mason. Trustee Consolino?
My concern, if you could ask staff, please, do we have the concerns about the septic? It affecting the septic at all?
Director King?
Oh, yeah, that was the other part of your question, so, as well as you, yeah. From what I understand, there is like a connected effluent that comes out of the mechanical system that's connected to the property owner to the south, and then it goes out to the front. They do have a connected system, so the property owner to the south was concerned about just it being moved and shifted and it being, them messing up that effluent line that's leaving the mechanical septic. But my understanding is that there's no other lines like going north. And that currently, like when they were, I mean, they didn't hit anything, I don't think, when they were constructing, not to my knowledge. You? Joe? I never heard anything about them hitting anything.
And that was only for construction, correct?
Correct.
Is that it? Okay. Trustee Stylen?
Thank you. I'm sorry that the petitioner isn't here because I would have liked to address some questions maybe to the petitioner. We don't really make money off of our permit fees. I mean, the purpose of a permit fee is to cover our staff expenses, to look over and review plans for a building so that there isn't a problem later on. It could be a safety issue or it could be something that affects another resident. So this hardship was created by the petitioner because they did not apply for a permit. He would not be in this situation because we would have said, hey, your property line is wrong here. And the neighbor, even though the fence is okay now, somebody new might move into that house and want to change that fence. They might want to put up a privacy fence, and now that privacy fence is 1.9 feet away from a one-size car, a one-car size garage. So I see problems with it. In reading over the Plan Commission comments and verbiage, the guy says he wants to store tools. He's building this garage to store tools and equipment. And he says, I do construction. So how does somebody who does construction not know to apply for a permit and put in a cement slab that's 26 by 20 feet. So I am a little bit lost here. Yesterday on Facebook, on the Village Square, somebody was posting questions about what are the requirements of a pool. And somebody responded, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And I think by approving this, that's what we're telling people. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. And those are some of the comments. I think there were still that septic system was still not quite clear. And I didn't see anything about the electric, what his plans are for the electric. So is that going to be code, and what is he going to do when he installs that? So those are my feelings on the shed.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. I have my own feelings on this, and as a trustee on this village board, my first question is why did he ignore the stop order? There was a stop order given in regards to this project. And from what I understand is that he ignored the stop order. I know that Ron went out there and issued a stop order, and he actually just totally disobeyed it and went ahead, and the next time, it wasn't this one? Oh, I'm sorry. Then, Melissa, I'm sorry, Director King, this is what I thought we were discussing today.
No, we have another situation that's very similar to this. It's a larger structure. It's not a setback issue. It's it's the amount of accessory structure area that they're over, but it's a very similar case. And so how this would come about is, so actually that one was caught in the field and they were framing, and when checked back up on because they had not applied for a permit yet, the structure was already complete. So then the village code enforcement instructs them to come and apply for a building permit, and when they come through zoning review, it's not compliant, the village staff can't issue a permit. So their option is either you move it based on what our staff tells them, or you can, any property owner has the right to apply for a variance. We cannot deny them that, even though we will tell them oftentimes that based on certain circumstances, we likely will not support it based on just the request that I don't want to move it. I think that we look at every case with its own unique circumstances, of course, and if we go through the process and realize that there is a justified reason for the variance, then we would support it. But I think that upon just like the initial look at that's not something that we would normally support just because they didn't pull a permit.
Okay, well, that was my mistake, but I also do have other concerns as well about the septic. And did anybody get a report or anything from a septic company to say that this work that he's already done may be damaged? Yeah, no, so that was another one of my concerns as well. Trustee Mason.
Mayor Pro Tem, is it possible that I can make a motion to table this to see if we can't get the petitioner here?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I know we can't debate.
You can have them talk on. The person who made the motion to table would have first floor rights.
Okay.
For the purpose of debate, is there a discussion as to the motion to table?
Okay, all right. Is there a discussion in regards to the motion to table? Trustee Consolino?
No, not.
I don't see what, and I will work with you if you can tell me, I don't see what tabling is how that's going to change the whole permit process and the size of the structure. And Trustee Stalin, you hit it on the head with, the setting the precedent, being involved in construction, the electrical part of it, the unknown rows with the water. If I could be told what the benefit of tabling it would be, I would.
I was just hoping that we could have the petitioner actually have an opportunity to come before this board and tell us exactly what he was thinking, because I know what he did. He laid that cement and he doesn't want to move it, and I get it, but you're right, we're setting a precedence, and I'd like to see him, will he agree to pay the fines, and will he agree to pay the permits? But before we go ahead and tell them yes, if he doesn't agree to do that, or we tell him no and then he has to move it, I'd like to hear what the petitioner actually has to say in his own defense.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And Madam President, just for purpose of clarification, this is any more discussion on the motion that's been seconded to table the existing motion, which is to grant the ordinance which would approve the variance.
Okay, so is there a motion to grant the tabling of this motion?
Madam President, I think that at this point, we want to ask if there's any further discussion on the
asked if
motion
there
to
was
table.
any,
Is there any further discussion?
I asked if there was further discussion. There was no discussion.
No, ma'am.
And so now,
No, I feel that they should have been here.
I want to call the vote on the motion to table.
Okay.
There was no second.
Yes, no.
Sue seconded.
Sue did, okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on the motion to table?
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. No.
It passes.
Okay, is there any more discussion on the motion to approve?
Well, we tabled it.
It passed two tables, so there wouldn't be.
So the motion to table has been approved,
Right.
so the matter's been tabled.
Okay, so the matter has been tabled, the motion to table has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was confusing for me.
Madam Clerk, what was the roll? What was the vote?
Okay, moving on. Is there a motion to approve an ordinance granting a variance to reduce the required front yard setback?
Sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve an ordinance granting a variance to reduce the required front yard setback from 50 feet to 40 feet for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential District at 16465 South Hidden Cove Court, Homer Glen, Illinois? It's according to our Homer Glen Ordinance 2410-V.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second, okay. Any discussion?
Not from me.
I see that the Plan Commission voted 6-0 to recommend. The two residents that called really didn't have any issues with the request. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. Trustee Cancelino, anything?
No, there was no documented objections, so it was okay.
Okay. Trustee Stylen?
No.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
The motion to approve the ordinance carries.
Okay. Okay, L4, is there a motion to approve a professional service agreement with HR Green for plats of conveyance and easement for the village's 151st Street project, not to exceed a fee of $19,500? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Mason?
It's pretty standard boilerplate. We've done this a couple times in the past, and it looks like it falls right within the parameters that we're used to.
Okay. Trustee Stylen?
I don't really have any comments.
Okay. Trustee Consolino, anything?
No, I don't have a problem with this. This was unvoted, not by our board or the previous board. I do have concerns that we're going to have to start discussion about the widening of 151st, and that we're going to let people know, because I think one of the last meetings that I had been to before I was elected, that there was going to be rezoning involved. And so I think there needs to be proper notification as to what's going to be done, when, why this came about, who voted for it. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Fialko?
Nothing.
Okay.
May I ask you something?
Yes. Attorney Pasquinelli?
Yes, if I may. May I ask?
Yes, you may.
The village manager. Village Manager Baber, is this the final iteration of the professional service agreement that we're being approved? I don't see any red lines from my office on this.
I would defer to Village Engineer Westcott.
Can we ask Joe? Can we ask?
This is not the most recent copy, no. This is missing the updates on it there. So I must have missed it to put this in there.
Okay.
Oh, this was reviewed?
This is the same one that you've reviewed, it just doesn't have your markups on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the one that we're asking the trustees to approve is the form that our office revised with those red lines.
Correct.
Has now been transmitted to HR Green for their approval and consent. Is that what it is?
Correct.
Okay, just for the record, this particular service agreement isn't the one that we have revised. I revised it, or our firm revised it in various provisions here to protect the village. And that's what you all will be approving.
Okay.
It not being in front of us, I'd like to make the motion to table L4 till we have that revision in front of us.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Is
discussion.
this going to in any way hinder your progress with this?
We need to approve this sooner than later, right? The sooner the better. This project is planned to move forward into phase 2 within the next fiscal years, and we do have significant grant funding secured for 151st Street widening, I think in the tune of millions of dollars. So we need to get this rolling so we can get kind of wrapped up.
Madam Mayor, may I speak?
One last question, Brett. You said millions of dollars in grants. Do you know what that grant is?
Well, I know a significant portion of it is ITEP for the bicycle path along the north side of the road, and then the other portion is for the widening of the project itself. And I want to say it's at least the ITEP was close to $5 million, and then there's another 3 or 4 on top of that for the widening project.
Thank you.
Village manager?
Thank you. This document was reviewed by our legal. It is just not included right here, so that was looked at by legal. We're awaiting additional review by HR Green to look at the document after the suggestions of our review by village attorneys.
Madam Mayor.
So the approval of this would be based on a document that our attorneys have reviewed and is currently under review by HR Green.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. How about, may I say?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So I believe what we're hearing is that we have reviewed this professional services agreement. That document has been sent to HR Green. They're looking at it with their legal department to approve it. My suggestion, I think what I'm hearing is you're asking for this to be approved subject to the approval and review and approval of the village attorney, not exceeding the price, not exceeding the scope of services, simply for the form of the legal liability and such that these provisions relate to.
Right. It has already been reviewed once by our attorney. It is going back to HR Green for them to review, and then it would be based on if there was any additional changes, it would come back to our attorney for approval as well. So everything is based on review of our attorneys, and it is time sensitive.
Madam Mayor, I made the motion to table it. I got a second. We can add this on to our special. We don't have the changes in front of us is what it comes down to. It's in HR Green's ballpark, right? So there's no reason, I don't think, that we can't add this on to our special meeting on June 25th and get it taken care of if time is of the essence.
There's nothing, I mean, it could be part of that special board meeting,
Okay.
just one thing. That's what.
As long as that's okay with Mr.
Village
Westcott?
engineer, would that be okay with you if we hold it over to the 25th?
I'd really like to get this wrapped up and done. We're waiting on HR Green's comments. I just want to make sure that we get this approved so that they can continue to work on this one. Otherwise they're just working on a handshake.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I will rescind
Okay.
my motion, my second. I cannot?
No.
Okay.
No. Trustee Fialko.
The problem with this is we don't have it in front of us. We can't see the difference between. We wouldn't do this with anything else that we're involved with, right? And I don't think waiting till the 25th. This project has been going on for a long time, like you said earlier, right? Waiting till the 25th so we can have it in front of us as the board before we just kind of we pass it and then we read it to see what we passed. No, I think the proper way would be to address it on the 25th of June. That's not that far away. We've been working on this for years. And now this is coming to a head. So waiting just one more week, I don't think is going to hurt.
So you have a second for the motion to table. Is there any further discussion on the motion to table?
Right. Is there any further discussion?
Trustee Mason rescinded, so I will give
No,
my...
he can't, he cannot. No,
Okay,
he cannot.
okay.
So is there any further discussion on tabling? Yes, Joe?
This was tabled previously upon attorney review. It's been reviewed by the attorneys. I don't know if there is any additional reason why we would table it again.
Well, the reason would be because we don't have the changes in front of us. It's just like you're hearing somebody out in on the national level saying we vote for something, well, we have to vote for something so we can see what's in it. That's the wrong direction to go. We have to have it in front of us. We can vote it on the 25th. This has been hanging out too long. I think that's where legal counsel was going in the first place before this.
Well, we could take the roll.
That's the right thing to do, is to wait till it's in front of us. It's only it's a week away. It's not that big of a deal. So I would like us to take...
I would hope legal's not going to lead us astray.
To what?
I would hope legal is not trying to lead us astray.
No,
Okay, so if Mr. Westcott needs to get this taken care of because grants are at a deadline and we need to move forward on it, and Joe has gone through it and gone over the changes with legal, I'm sure the changes are not going to hinder costing. It's not going to hinder services. Is that correct? Is that the way I understood it, Mike?
Yeah, the revisions that we put on this agreement did not affect the scope of work and did not affect the cost. It required them to put us on notice in the event that something exceeded that $19,500 scope of work, and it would require the Board of Trustees to approve it before any such of that work would be authorized. They couldn't just send us an open faucet, as we say in the construction business, and just send us a bill for extra work unless it was expressly approved by this board.
Your advice.
Those were two of the things that we had changed.
Your advice at this point.
Trustee Silent, Trustee Silent has something she has to say.
So where it stands is we've reviewed it, we've sent it to HR Green, and can't we just approve it unless they make a change? And if they make a change, then it would have to come back before us?
If the board is considering that approach, we would first have to vote on the motion to table that's before us. That would have to be voted. And then the next, what I would suggest would be a motion to amend this motion, basically to make the signature and the approval of this subject to the review and approval of the village attorney, which we have done once before on a couple of items. I believe we've done it that way in the past. But certainly if any of the trustees have any concerns or issues with the changes that we've made because they haven't had an opportunity to review them, that's certainly within their right.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other discussion? Sue?
I just want to follow that up. Couldn't it just say subject to no additional changes?
What happened, may I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
What happens in actuality, that's usually not how it all works when we're going back and forth with attorneys. Typically here, to keep costs down, Brett Westcott and staff will be the liaison and will transmit my revisions to the opposing side for their review, approval, what have you. I don't get involved unless they disagree to it or there's been some tweaks and those sorts of things. So usually there are going to be some tweaks. So there are, more likely than not, there are going to be some changes back from them, which I take a look at, or our firm takes a look at, and we decide if these sort of terms are agreeable to us from our risk parameter that we're looking at.
Okay.
And therefore,
Trustee Fialko.
and therefore, on the 25th, which is only a week away, all that would be taken care of. We wouldn't have to amend. We don't have to do anything else. We'll still get the grant money. We're not going to lose out on the grant money, correct?
I'd have to ask HR Green in regards to that. I mean, we're getting up to the end of the schedule here.
We've taken and we've rejected things for lesser things in the packet where we didn't have a complete packet. And you're wrong.
Okay.
So there's a motion to table. That's
Right, exactly. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll on motion to table the motion to approve a professional service agreement with HR Green for plats, inconveyance, and easement for the village's 151st Street project, not to exceed $19,500?
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Madam President Pro Tem Reinders.
No.
All right, so now the question.
Now, can I make a motion to amend to review before, is that correct, Mike?
Make a motion to amend
This motion.
this motion.
Yep.
To make the approval of the
Right.
proposal subject to the review.
Subject to review.
Subject to the review.
And approval of the village attorney.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Discussion?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Consolino?
None from
Trustee
me.
Fialko? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Abstain.
Trustee Fialko.
No.
Madam President
Aye.
Pro Tem Reinders.
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, moving on. L5. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 24-009, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the County of Will for maintenance and energy of traffic signals at the intersection of Bell Road, County Highway 16, and Founder's Crossing? Is
I'll
there a
make that.
motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Fialko, Trustee Consolino, Trustee Fialko?
Nope, nothing from me. This is something we need, and this is because of our original agreement expiring, so.
Trustee Consolino?
No, but I do have a question. Could you please direct to staff? I get a lot of complaints about when we're going to be actively, or when Will County is going to be actively working over there on that, because they have that huge pitch where there's constant flooding, both any season, including in the winter. In the wintertime, it actually causes ice. So I know
Village
Director
Engineer,
Woods is in.
Can you answer that?
So that is part of agenda item L7.
Okay.
Also, there were some markups on these IGAs as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think it didn't make it into these, just as it didn't make it into the previous HR Green one.
Okay.
I think we have them here.
We do have
You
them.
guys, you do, okay, they're not in my
If
packet.
you know what, if you like these, you could have these. This is,
As long as you guys have them on your end,
Yeah, we
that's all
have
that
them.
matters.
Yeah.
Okay, good, okay, that's all, sorry.
okay.
But yes, that's the Martingale Lane drainage issues.
Attorney
Trustee
Castanelli?
Consolino, that's addressed in L7, and that is being addressed as part of the improvements in that project.
Attorney
Thank you.
Castanelli?
Just so the trustees are aware, the reason why there's a little bit of confusion with these final agreements having our red lines on them, we had sent several of these to the village staff Friday afternoon. I was not aware that Ms. Marquette and other staff members that are typically responsible for putting these together and getting them to Mr. Westcott and then having transmitted to you all, I was not aware that that timeline had been brought up. So we provided these in red line format the afternoon on Friday. I provided Mr. Westcott a copy of the HR Green iteration on Monday. Unfortunately, it was too late, and that's the reason why I missed your packet. I apologize for that. I did not know that schedule had been pushed up a little bit, so that's the reason why there's some confusion here. When I read the revised packet on Monday, I noticed that it did not have our markups on them, and that's the reason why we have some of these line items separately on the dais for you all to take a look at for your review, now in the form that it is.
Okay. Trustee Mason, anything?
Myself and Mr. Westcott discussed these, all 3, 4 of them, basically, they're pretty standard, they're just renewals. We went over these during the week. I don't see any issues with them. I have asked Mr. Westcott during our safety and public services meetings to keep us abreast of what's transpiring on Bell Road, and he has started to do that piece of additional work. Sorry, Brett.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Mason. Trustee Stylen?
No, no comment.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Okay. L6. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 24-009, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a agreement with the County of Will and Gallagher and Henry for shared maintenance and energy of the traffic signals at the intersection of Bell Road, County Highway 16, and Founder's Crossing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Trustee Consolino? Are you seconding?
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Mason?
No, again, like I said, I had discussed it earlier in the week, and I understand it.
Okay. Trustee Consolino? No. Okay. Trustee Stylen?
No.
Trustee Fialko? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, L7. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 24-010, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the County of Will for maintenance and energy of traffic signals at the intersection of Bell Road, County Highway 16, and Martingale Lane? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Fialko?
Yes, this has been talked about for a long time. I know we got missed on the original layout with this. This is improving, making an improvement that we wanted, that we went to Will County for, so I support this.
Okay. Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, I'm just clarifying, this is just for traffic signal maintenance, because the other L7 had other improvements, right?
Okay.
Last paragraph. Last two sentences.
Maintenance, okay,
New agreements are needed.
okay, thank you, yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm fine.
Trustee Constantino, anything? No. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Okay. L9. Is there a motion to approve an ordinance amending Article 3 of Chapter 83, Sale of Tobacco and Tobacco Products within the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am, I read through the changes. I think we're fine.
Okay. Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, it looks like everything we've asked for is covered.
Okay. Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
No, this has been going on for a long time, and I think we've worn this one out here. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. L10, is there a motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 114, Article 2, Section 11, Clerk's Office of the Homer Glen Code of Ordinances? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am, I've been in here, I've had these discussions, and this is something that also has been going on for a long time.
Okay, Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, no other comments.
Okay, Trustee Consolino? No. Trustee Fialko?
This, again, for this, we're increasing the fees on a business here, so I do not support this one, but thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. L11, is there a motion to approve the cancellation of the Village Board's regular scheduled meeting on June 26, 2024?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Mason, Trustee Fialko?
Nothing.
Okay, Trustee Mason?
Right in the middle of Mr. Fialko's big heyday, we can't have a meeting while that's happening.
It's the day before, but
Okay, Trustee Stylen?
you'll be helping.
No comments.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Okay, L12. Is there a motion to approve payment of the Village of Homer Glen's April legal bills from Peterson, Johnson, and Murray in the amount of $18,384? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am, we went through this in A&F. That's why we brought it back. I'm ready.
Trustee Fialko.
Yes, Joe, I know what we said in A and F, but just for the public to hear it, you've gone through and reviewed the legal bills here for the $18,000, right?
That is
And
correct.
you're happy, you're okay with it, right?
I have gone through each billable item, hourly rate, and they are all good to go.
Okay, Trustee Stylen?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
That's it for me.
Okay, Trustee Stylen?
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I don't have any comments.
Okay. Trustee Consolino?
No.
anything? Okay. I do have something that I would like to add on this. This board requested for A and F to come back. We brought A and F back. It was reinstated. We changed SOP 1. We've made changes on SOP 1. Part of those changes included 4 trustees that now chair the Admin and Finance Committee. I just feel like we're being a little redundant here because we've already discussed this in A and F, so I really believe that with 4 trustees, we should be able to put this back on the consent agenda. I mean, I don't understand why we're doing double work, and that's what it feels like, because we had it, we brought it back, we went to A and F, and now we're bringing it back again. So, and as long as the village manager and the 4 trustees and our staff is reviewing this, if there is any changes that we thought would be appropriate to bring back to the board, I think at that time we could actually ask for it to come back to the board. But I really do believe this should be on consent agenda once 4 trustees have already reviewed it. And that's just my opinion. So.
Yeah,
Trustee
Madam Mayor.
Mason.
Yeah, I do feel like everybody beat it to death. They wanted A and F back. I sat in A and F, you sat in A and F. This is what we do. We have other trustees that come in. You got 4 of us now that are going through it. Everybody was kicking, screaming, and holler for us to go over everything. We did this by A and F, asking the questions, asking the concerns, asking the professionals behind the scenes. Now I feel like we're just beating a dead horse over and over again. When we put stuff in the consent agenda, we agree upon it unanimously in A and F, and then we pull it back out to rehash it all just to make these meetings go longer and longer. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what the purpose of A and F is then. Maybe we don't need A and F if we're just going to pull everything from the consent agenda.
Okay.
I have a comment. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the reason why I've requested this now a couple times over the past year is because ever since I started as an elected official on this board, we have always had the mayoral or the legal bills on here. And the reason for that was because a lot of residents were coming and demanding it at public comment. They wanted to see what our legal bills are. We are also paying the most expensive attorney law firm hourly that we've ever had here in the history of the village. So I think it's very important to stay with accountability and transparency. This is why I requested it last year. This is why I just requested it again when after you guys had A&F, it was tried again, somebody tried to bury it in consent agenda. So I'm going to continue to request that it gets pulled out. So as is my right, and I know I'm speaking for a lot of people, maybe you haven't spoken to the same people or heard the same meetings or attended the same meetings, but it was loud and clear. People wanted accountability for how high the legal bills were. And if, you know what I'll do for the next meeting where I can send you all an email? I'll add it all up for you. What we've acquired over the past year as far as what our legal bills are. We have a lot of work that's going on with different lawsuits and whatnot, and land acquisitions and plans ahead. So I think it's very important that we have accountability on the board for how much we're spending on our legal fees. Whether you agree with that or not, this is my opinion and this is my request.
Trustee Stylen.
No, I don't. I think if it's discussed at A&F, that's fine with me. I think, can't the residents, don't they see the whole packet? So if it's on the consent agenda, it's not included on?
Not always, Sue.
Okay, well, then it should be, maybe, because that is transparency, so I agree with that. I think if something happens at A&F where there's, some contention, then maybe you pull it off the consent agenda and make it a legislative item, but other than that, I have no problem either way.
Okay. Trustee Fialko?
Yes. For one, An Open Meetings Act is an Open Meetings Act. That's what it means. So the public can see what's going on. Just because one or two people go through A&F, it does not mean that it goes into the consent agenda just because it went through A&F. A lot of other things do not go in the consent agenda just because it goes through A&F. You might want to familiarize yourself with SOP 15, which calls for it. It calls for it. If it's controversial, it is supposed to be taken out. All it takes is one person, and I get it, it can be removed, but as long as one person's already asking for it, the only way we're losing time, you know where we're losing time? Is by discussing it, not just doing it. By just going through the motion, and a trustee asks for it to be removed, that's not a problem. SOP 15 calls for it, the ordinance calls for it, and so does the state statute. So just because we have an A&F meeting doesn't mean that it has to be in the consent agenda. No, it doesn't. And so I'd further say you might want to refresh yourself with SOP 15, the ordinance, and the state statute.
And who are you referring to? Is you should be referring to SOP
I'm not
15.
referring to everybody here.
Okay. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
No.
Okay, you guys have it?
Yes. Number 5.
Okay.
Item number 5 that we approved. I looked in my packet again. I have the marked up iterations for 6 and 7. I don't see a marked up iteration for number 5.
Okay.
So that needs to just say subject to the review. It's a very
Okay.
simple
Okay.
ordinance, but in an issue of transparency,
Okay.
that's not in our packet before anybody.
So do you want to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
If I may.
Yes,
I just want to, just from a clarification purpose, if we can go back, line item number 5, I think Mr. Westcott was originally talking about it. And looking over at the dais here, I do have a marked up, with our revisions from our firm, line item number 6. I have a marked up line item from our firm, number 7. Number 4 was the professional services agreement from HR Green that we approved, or that the village board just approved, subject to the review and approval of the village attorney. Number 5, however, I don't see a copy of the marked up agreement here before us. All the other ones were switched out before this village board meeting started. I don't see the one for number 5. So just for a matter of transparency and cautiousness, if we can move, even it's been approved, but if we can move again to approve that line item number 5 and make that subject to the review and approval of the village attorney too, which we've already done. We've already provided it to Mr. Westcott and everybody else. But I just want to make sure that that's of record appropriately.
Okay.
I don't see that before me right now.
Okay, so a motion to...
A motion
to approve
agenda item line number 5 and make it just...
with the amendments as, subject to the amendments.
So it's already been approved, so we're not going to
Yes.
amend anything.
Okay.
All we're going to do is we're going to move to make line item number 5, that approval, subject to the review and approval of the village attorney.
Okay, what he said.
I so move.
Second, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Again. Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
I'm not sure that was the way to do it, but aye.
Okay. L13, is there a motion to approve change order 1 for the Heritage Park parking expansion project in the amount of $607,030.43? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is
Second.
there a second? Trustee Gonzalo, Trustee Mason?
Yeah, we've been going back and forth on this forever, and it's been approved already. And as far as, I've already stated my reasons, and, that's the elderly, the disabled, the single moms, et cetera. Bottom line, it's done. We need to move forward. It has nothing to do with Cream Road. Everybody can quit talking about Cream Road. That's for something else completely. Cream Road is not going to help anybody get closer to that sled hill. So that's all I have to say at this time on it. I will discuss it in more detail during old business if needed.
Okay, Trustee Consolino?
No, I've expressed my opinion on this again and again and again. Why beat a dead horse, right? So, no.
Okay. Trustee Stylen? Anything?
Just to add, I know that Mr. Walters would have liked to have spoken on this a little longer. I had also received Mr. Gowron's emails, and I just want to say that the purpose of this of the cul-de-sac road is to provide access to the other area of the park, especially for those with different abilities. And this was a well-thought-out park plan. The sled hill has future uses that may include other features. This cul-de-sac road can be used for other special events. It has a turnaround feature if the road is closed in the center for another event, if the Heritage Circle is closed. It'll serve for extra parking for other events, not just the fest, but maybe trunk or treat or Homer for the holidays, when we finally finish our music stage or whatever. And to think that you could put the parking to be located at 151st and Cream, it would still be subject to mud. And I would rather see this than an asphalt parking lot at 151st and Cream. So in case those are all the thoughts that people think that we should change this, I think we should, I agree with Mr. Mason, Trustee Mason, and we should move forward.
Okay. Trustee Fialko?
Yes. For the 3 years that I've been here, this has been a very controversial thing. It's been stopped, it's been started, it's been stopped, it's been started. We were promised that we had grant money, then we found out we didn't have the grant money. Now we supposedly have grant money, but I know this is costing at least, matter of fact, if I could get a solid number from Brent Westcott, and then I'd like to continue.
You can continue, and actually, the village engineer will be.
Oh, yeah.
No, I want an answer from my thing. All they have to do is ask you. So I want the number.
So as it stands right now, the agreed price that we have for the change order for the cul-de-sac road itself, with the electrical work excluded, as we discussed, is $607,000, $607,030.43.
No, with the total cost of the project without the grant money.
The total cost of the project without the grant money.
Total cost of the project.
Of the
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So that would be a total cost to the village of $2,309,806.62.
For the cul-de-sac?
This is for everything.
Everything.
Everything,
It's all
all together.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'd like to note as well, that's including an estimated cost for the electrical work, so that cost could vary. I don't think it'll be any higher than what I've estimated, but I would hope that it would be lower.
Okay, and I still have the floor. So to continue with that, yes, we started off at $1.5 million. It was said during one of our meetings that Danley Garage Company could come in and build a garage on each of the 150 spaces. It's still not cost what we're paying in here. Now we took and we spent $800,000 on our 151st and Cream that is not part of our campus, it's not connected, and we could have used that money towards this. But the board made a different decision, like to almost go in a different direction. So spending this money, this park is costing a lot of money. We have a lot of irons in the fire. We have a lot of things that we're working on, and I just think this is a bad time to spend this money. It's a bad time to do this project. We have no plans to do anything over there other than what we've got going on now. I know you spoke about an amphitheater in the near future, but we have a Veterans Memorial that didn't get completed. We have a lot of things going on, and just spending money on this park, yeah, it's a gem, all right? It's costing us millions and millions of dollars. So we went from $1.5 million to $2.3 million in that short period of time. I do not support this at all at this time. For all the things that we have going on in this village, we need to be the fiduciaries to the taxpayer, and I still think that this is a bad plan at this time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Could Mr. Westcott please repeat exactly how much this costs us without grant funding?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to run it one more time, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Previously, I forgot to deduct out the leftover money that we'll have from the changes, right? If we're not doing the square lot and we're doing the cul-de-sac, and instead there's a savings on that original cost. of about $470,258.10. So I'm going to take this new total of $2,309,806.62, and I'm going to subtract out the $470,258.10. So the total cost, I'm sorry, is actually $1,839,548.52. That is $1,839,548.52 would be the total cost without the grant funding.
Thank you.
To complete that as is right now.
Okay, all right, thank you, Trustee Fialko. Okay, I have something that I would like to say on this as well. Again, this project was a project that was approved by this board. What is in question here today is not the project itself. The project has already been approved. What we are talking about here, the subject matter of this motion is for the change order. Upon getting back the bids from DDD Construction, we felt that, or I should say that Engineer Westcott felt that he was not happy with the bids from the electrical portion of the whole package. So therefore, all we are voting on today, we're not voting yay or nay whether or not the cul-de-sac road is going to go through. That's a done deal. This board voted on that. What we are voting on here today is the change order. The change order which will allow the engineer to get a better price for the electrical. So, and this is something that we also discussed at A&F, and now we're back at the board given another shot trying to deter the whole project when in fact we've already voted on this project. And all we're here for today is to vote on the change order. Any other discussion?
Madam President, thank you very much. So we went from 2 point whatever down to 1.8, so it's basically from the 1.5. If you look at the overall project, it's an additional 300,000. When you look at the budget implications of $607,030.43, and we are getting a $750,000 grant, am I correct,
Right.
Mr. Westcott?
That is correct.
Sounds to me like we're ahead of the game, and it has been voted on, and it is moving through, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
Nope.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Madam President Pro Tem Reinders?
Aye. Okay, L8, discussion and consensus on Will County zoning case ZC-24030 for property located at 13764 South Archer Avenue, Lamont, Illinois, 60439, PIN number 16-05-06-200-020-000, and PIN number 16-0506 200-019-000. Is there any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to adopt, thank you, Attorney Pasquinelli. Motion to adopt. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt what?
What are we adopting?
Here,
What
this is-
action are we looking at?
We're on
We're just,
L8.
it's just discussion and consensus.
It's
That's
an-
why I didn't, yeah.
But is there a motion to entertain discussion?
Okay, so is there a motion to entertain discussion on agenda item L8?
I will make a motion to discuss.
Okay, a second. Okay, Trustee Mason, would you like to open the discussion?
I've gone over and over it. I'm torn, but you know, it seems to me that all we do is put in truck stops and trucking companies and storage facilities, and this is a shared revenue location between intergovernmental agreements between us and Lamont, and they have it zoned for retail, and if there's no retail, we don't share the revenue, and it's just that many more trucks going down 159th Street.
here, on that corridor, I understand there's some complications with it, but on that corridor right there, that is a trucking corridor. That is where that business needs to stay on Archer and 355. I know it's part of Lamont, but as a word of caution, we've taken and thrown things out there for the storage facility on 159th Street. We petitioned Will County, and they still did it anyway. So the best way I think we can, I mean, I'd like to turn over to Melissa in a second if she could explain it in a little more detail. But I think we're better off trying to work with our sister governments and our neighbors than it is to just say, no, we don't want it. And I know Lockport is involved with this also. I will let Melissa explain that a little bit better than I can. But you've got Lamont, Lockport, and us that are involved with this entity and this decision that then goes to Will County. So it's a little more complicated than just Homer Glen. So if we could we please?
Would you like to speak on this?
Sure. Just to clarify what Trustee Fialco was speaking of is that this area, interestingly enough, is subject of all of the boundary agreements between the municipalities here. So it's on, the subject property is on our side of the agreement with Lockport. It's on Lamont's side with Lockport, and it is, that might be it.
Lamont's side.
I apologize. Lamont's side, yes. So within those agreements, I have read a little bit more in those agreements now. There is clearly stated discussion about statutory objections not being kind of part of that, and that with a county project that you still have the ability to object even though you're in those agreements. But what has come before our staff is that both Lamont and Lockport are objecting to this. So I believe what I've seen is that a letter at least has already been sent to the county from Lockport. Officially, I don't know if Lamont has done that yet. I think they may be in a similar situation that we're in, that we wanted to get in front of the board. Lockport was able to get in front of their council quicker than we were. So I'm not sure where they are in their process. And then, of course, if the board wanted us to follow through with a formal objection, we would, what we did in the past was bring a resolution in front of the board, so we would need to do that. Probably at the next meeting would be, I think timeliness is of the essence with the county, is what we've found in the past. And we have to file it with the clerk. There's requirements of time frame and whatnot. And what that does is that it will force a supermajority vote at the board level when it gets to the board. It only takes one of the municipalities to do that. I also think that the other part of what Trustee Fialco was speaking of is that within the Lamont boundary agreement that we have, there is the whole triangular area that's south of 135th, north of Archer, and east of the tollway. That triangular area is demarcated as a shared tax area between the two communities. And the intention in the agreement is that it be like an area for retail sales tax development. And both of our comp plans, ours and Lamont's, both identify the area that's north of Archer as being a commercial area. And our code clearly doesn't include, I've included all the section in the commercial in that comp plan section, but it does not talk about trucking and industrial land uses, which is what, per our code, this would be. And Lamont's, I believe they refer to it as commercial retail. And I think they have clearly told us, and I think Village Manager Baber also had a conversation with the village manager at Lamont, that they really have envisioned this area as kind of an extension of that Target, Kohl's, Home Goods section that's to the north of this, and that extending down towards the tollway. So does that kind of cover it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Mason?
No, it's...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. It seems like an appropriate place for this type of business, but I understand that our comp plan does not include industrial zoning for that area. So I respect our comp plan. And if Lamont is really objecting to it, I would support Lamont's objection. I would like to see something in writing from Lamont saying that they're objecting to it before we object to it. And then I would follow suit, just to be a good neighbor in development, because I know how we felt about the storage facility, not wanting that, and then Will County overriding us. So I would support Lamont in that. I would like to see Lamont and Lockport support us in opposing the expansion of 143rd Street, which they did not do. They wrote letters in support of the widening, and I would like to bring that to their attention again. Thank you.
Trustee Consolino.
I have a lot of concerns. I don't trust what could be and what their alleged visions are. We have a lot of concerns for truck traffic right now. I've been listening to this ever since I got onto the board. We have concerns about 143rd. What if this is just another endeavor to give to that, give it credence, give it some meat? I feel like there's a whole other plan in place here that we're not looking at, and I'm very uncomfortable with this being brought to us. So for right now, I really don't know what our consensus should be. Is that what we're being?
I think the consensus would be is if we agree with them, but we don't have, like Director King said, we don't have a resolution that states that. So I think we would need to formally put something together to object to this, formally. So, but I would like to get the consensus. I'm sorry, Trustee Bianco?
I'd like to hear our attorney's input on this because it's realistic.
Well, if I could finish, please.
Oh, you just asked me though.
But I'd like to finish first.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dan, but I'd like to finish my thought first. So I think, I think if we move forward with it, if we do get something in writing from Lamont or from Lockport saying that they do oppose this, and we put something in writing, I've looked at this, I've studied it, I've talked to Melissa about this, and that area is slated for retail. I mean, Lamont is hoping that they're going to be able to continue the retail from the Target, the Home Goods, all of that. So in discussing this with Director King, if you look at that area there, it's a very easy on-off, and our community does not want any more trucks. We do not want. I agree with Trustee Consolino on this one. We have to really curtail the truck traffic in Homer Glen, especially down 143rd. Down our side streets. We've got trucks that are. I don't know who's directing them, but they're going down some of our streets where they're not even allowed to go on there. So, in adding this with all these bays, I mean, it's going to bring a lot more truck traffic to us, and I really don't agree with that. So,
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, Trustee Consolino.
What Trustee Stylen pointed out about this, we would have to change our comprehensive plan, correct? And I am not comfortable with that whatsoever, so I just want that marked down.
Any other discussion? I'm sorry, Trustee Bianco?
With that said, we have worked with or tried to work with Will County before. We've had several examples, right? So I'm just wondering if the attorney can interject just a little bit and say where we're at, because Will County is going to do whatever they want to do in the long run. So I don't know if there's anything you're thinking that council would be thinking of that we could do that would be supportive of trying to either stop. I don't know where annexation plays into this. I don't know how our comprehensive plan would need to be changed, but I'm just curious if the attorney could give his opinion on the situation.
I think the first place where we start is we need to review the boundary agreement that we have in existence with Lamont to make sure that we can contractually get involved and voice an objection if that's the consensus of the board. I have not read that agreement. I have not given an opinion on that agreement yet. So that'd be step one. Step two, let's say, for instance, that there is a bar by way of that IGA that would prevent us, at least from a contract standpoint, from joining Lamont in this objection. We would then need their permission expressly to join in their common action to avoid any repercussions potentially with breaching that agreement. Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, that
helps a little bit.
All right.
Director King, if I can ask you, you and I had discussed earlier about the annexation. So nobody would be able to annex that in, would they?
From what I'm seeing, no. So Lamont and Homer Glen are not contiguous to this property currently. And Lockport, while they are contiguous, they have a boundary agreement with both municipalities. Ours is obviously up very soon, but Lockport's with Lamont. was just re-upped in 2016. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, that's on a real preliminary review. So I did include in here the same thing that you're recommending, that if the board is interested in us going down this path, that the first thing we should do is look at these agreements and make sure that we're okay and that we've done everything we need to before moving forward with something more formal.
Okay. Okay, Attorney?
Yes, so the property that is subject to this discussion, that's in a boundary agreement between us and Lamont, and it's on our side of that boundary agreement, or is it on theirs?
It's on Lamont's.
It's on Lamont's side. Okay.
It's on our side with Lockport, and it's on Lamont's side with Lockport.
Okay, understood. And so hypothetically then, when our boundary agreement with Lockport expires on July 1st, Lockport can then seek to try to annex that piece and do what they would like to do with it.
I don't think so, because the Lamont agreement has this property in it as well, and it's on the Lamont side of their agreement.
So
And I
Lamont
can
has an
send you
IGA with.
Correct. I'll send you all three.
Yeah, and
You should
so
see
I
all
think what Trustee Fialko was saying probably, and I 100% agree, I think it would probably make sense if there's just a consensus that you want our office to take a look at
Right.
these 3 additional IGAs, it seems like there's out there,
Right.
to see what rights we have and to give an assessment on, what potential issues can come arise from these.
Sure. I can just read something quickly if you don't mind.
No, go
Because
ahead.
I had not read this part ever in our boundary agreement with Lamont, but it says this agreement shall not be construed so as to limit or adversely affect the right of either municipality to file a statutory objection to proposed rezonings or other land use proposals that have been presented to the corporate authorities of Cook or Will counties involving territory that is within 1.5 miles of corporate limits. And the same exact language is in ours with Lockport as well.
So that's in the language between ours and.
Lamont, but this, I checked today, and the same language is in the one, ours with Lockport as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it's in the same with Lockport and Lamont, but
Then it should be it sounds like it should be a quick read.
it should be.
But I'd like
and
to take a look
I saw that, but you should see all
I've
of
seen
them.
enough IGAs in my career where there might be one clause that says one thing
Somewhere in there.
expressly, and then we have another one that says something completely different that may knock that out, so I'd have to take a look at it.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Um,
Jeannie?
The public hearing with the Will County Planning Commission is June 18th. Does that create a deadline for us and Lamont?
So the thing is that the map amendment objection has to be filed with the clerk before it goes to board. And I don't have it with me, but I ran a rough timeline on the earliest they could get there based on their committees and board, and it's sometime in July. If our board would like me to summarize conversation here, and I can submit it, and we can submit it in an informal letter, I can certainly do that, but I think, of course, we'd like council to review before that happens, and it's gonna happen. I mean, the meeting's happening fast. What did it say, Janie? I'm sorry,
June 18th.
I mean, I guess I'm just going to lean on you guys, because I think it would always be helpful to have it submitted at time of hearing, but if this board doesn't feel comfortable with that and we need to look at our agreements first before we say anything, I think that that's obviously prudent. And that I know from going through this process previously that the teeth is when you have to file it with the clerk before board. So it's not the hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission where it's most important.
So what is the feeling of this board? Trustee Mason?
Naturally, I would like to follow council's lead, but I would like to see something already from Lockport, and I think at some point we've had enough truck traffic. I don't think and this is, if you really read it, it's not just selling
There's 100 and something
tractors.
days. Yeah.
It's 118 bays, it's trailers as well. I know it's close proximity to I-355. And bottom line, at some point, if legal agrees, I'd like to file a formal objection.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee Fialko?
I'd like legal to take a look at it. I think you're never going to stop truck traffic. That is why 355 is there. It's not really at 143rd Street, but I get the commonality to it, that it's close. But Archer and 355 and all the other warehouses that are up and down our freeways like that, we're not going to stop that progress, I don't believe. That's why I think it's best that legal counsel takes a good look at it, and then we can go from there.
Trustee Stylen?
Yes, agree with going with the legal counsel and hearing from Lamont. I want to hear from Lamont. There was a letter that Lockport
Well, I meant
put
to
out.
say, yeah. Lamont.
And the other concern, just to keep in the back of your minds, is if that doesn't go there, I mean, yes, Lamont wants retail, but is retail going to actually come there because of the state of retail today? I just fear what else might get put there. I would rather have that business than a warehouse, because that business only had 10 truck bays, not 100 that a warehouse would have. So.
Okay, so the consensus of this board is to rely on legal to put something together and then bring it back to the board, and then this board discuss it and approve it at that point. Do I have a consensus on that?
Yes, for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe we put it on the 25th?
So, yeah, so maybe we could bring it back on the 25th. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Should somebody go to the Will County Plan Commission meeting when they talk about this?
Director King?
I can, I have to check my calendar, but if my calendar is open, I will attend.
Okay.
I attended them in the past, so yeah.
Okay, if you don't, just let us know and let's see if we can get somebody to just hear what they have to say.
Okay, does anybody have anything under old business?
I do.
Okay, Trustee Mason.
Yes, I would like to start with the flag flying and all the comments that have made here today. I wish we would stop the confusion. There are two different government bodies. There's a township and there's a village. Whether you agree with the persecution of our 45th president or not, me personally, I don't speak for all of Homer Glen, neither does the township. I find it very disrespectful to fly the flag upside down. It's a military sign of distress. My son is a first responder. He's a police officer right now as we speak. My father's flag is the second pole behind Mr. Fialko's head. My father fought in Vietnam. My brother fought in Vietnam. My two brother-in-laws fought in Vietnam. My grandfather was in World War II. My nephew's in the Marines right this second. The township doesn't speak for the Democrats, the liberals, the libertarians, even the Republicans for that matter. It's such a minute group at this point. I just think it's very disrespectful. I believe there is a law and an ordinance against flying a flag upside down on a municipality or a federal building. I just can't believe that the people of Homer Glen cannot differentiate between township and village, and we were slammed. We were slammed, and we had to give a rebuttal, and we didn't condone it. Lou Zemke, I'm sure he didn't fight for this country to see the flag flying upside down, not more than 100 yards from this building. Another thing, as far as OMA, I am familiar with it. I am familiar with our SOP 15. Mr. Fialko, I try not to raise my tone at you. You should watch how you speak to others on this board. I am not your son. You are not the senior. You should treat all trustees with respect. I could turn up the tone if you like, or we can keep this amicable. Thank you.
Okay, anything else under old business?
Yeah, I have something. And I'm going to address Trustee Mason in a second. But with old business, we talked about it in A&F. A&F is taken and started up again. We talked about that earlier. But we did talk about gas prices in Homer Glen. And we asked the village manager and or the mayor or a combination of both to look into the reason why Homer Glen is being charged 30 cents to 75 cents more per gallon within our boundaries of Homer Glen. It does affect our income when it comes to down to where people buy their gas. We do have the 3 cents per gallon upon delivery tax that is in Homer Glen, but if people don't shop here, I believe that goes directly to parks too, if I'm not mistaken. So it has a profound effect on our bottom line when we want to put in cul-de-sac roads or anything like that. It does affect our income. So we do have A&F looking into that. To address Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason, I can get along with anybody. You have your tone a lot of times here, sir, and I do just let you slide. But you know what? At a certain point, when you throw shit at the wall and see if it'll stick, you know what? At that point, I have to take and I have to say something. And if it's on paper, we could have talked about it. You didn't have to say what you said. So we've talked before. I haven't heard from you. So after that meeting, if you want to talk about our ordinance, SOP 15, our ordinance, and the state statute and how it addresses it, you said that you know it, but yet you complained about the issue. So that tells me that maybe there's a little confusion. I don't know where it's at, but you know what? We all address each other. But you have used your tone several different times here, and I've been told by people in the audience, why do you let him talk that way? And you know what? I really don't get offended by it. I told you before, I have thick skin, and I'm okay with it. But I think you're right, though. I think you and I can talk on a very level playing field, and we can get along, and we can get things done. But at the same time, we have to show each other that respect. And there's been times, and I'm sure you would admit it, with certain comments that you've made that the audience even has addressed me about it, that I haven't said anything. So at this time, being that it came up, I think it's important. But I do think we can work together. We've shown that in the past, and I'd like to move forward and work together with you and not have this little tit for tat going back and forth stuff. I agree. If you'd like to sit down together and go through it, I'd be more than happy to go through SOP 15, the ordinance, and the state statute, so we can come together to an agreement on that. There's no reason we can't work together. So I agree with that part of it. As far as new business, I think covering that,
That's it?
I'm all done. Thank you.
Trustee Consino, do you
I
have
just want to address the comments that were made about tone, considering just several months ago, Trustee Mason referred to me as Trustee Cunt Solino on this dais, and it's on video. Yes, it did, and I documented it.
Point of order.
So point of order, and please let me speak. I have the floor. I'm tired of being interrupted. I'm tired of giggles, cackles, laughing, pointing. It's all on video, sir. So when you're going to sit here and make derogatory comments towards any of us on this side, just because we're not part of your slate, we try our hardest to be as professional as possible. You have not. You've demonstrated it here again tonight. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other new business, any other old business? Attorney?
Yes, briefly, at the last board meeting, I believe Trustees Fialco and Consolino asked my firm to go back. There was a previous board meeting, I want to say back in February of 2024. We were asked to take a look at some of the issues regarding a sign ordinance. Just quick update on that. We did take a look at how Mr. Baber's enforcement group were enforcing the sign ordinance. We provided him feedback from what our position was on the enforceability, the provisions of the existing sign ordinance and what would be enforceable, what would not. There are two provisions in there as they stand, and which I talked to Mr. Baber about. It's section 220-1005 is dealing with temporary signs. There's a provision A1 that says temporary signs shall not be erected for more than 30 days in a calendar year. That one, it was the opinion of our firm that would be unenforceable under Illinois law, specifically Illinois law. And back in our February board meeting, I had spoke to the public, and in our report, that Illinois legislature had passed a law basically preempting the ability for a home rule municipality like us, like the Village of Homer Glen, to regulate temporary political signs with exception to reasonable restrictions on size. So the only sphere when we're dealing with temporary political signs that the Village of Homer and Glen can pass an ordinance and enforce would be reasonable size restrictions with regarding temporary signs. So that was one provision that I took a look at and our staff took a look at that we believed cannot be enforced. There's a second one. There's a number of yard signs may be increased equal to the number of candidate positions as proposed referendums that appear in an upcoming election. That too, when we looked at this, the state law again only allows reasonable restrictions on size. Putting a restriction on that number of signs per candidate would exceed that limitation, which is solely to reasonable size restrictions. So when we're dealing with temporary signs in the realm of political speech, that would be a provision that we recommended would not be enforced as well, per the existing sign code. There was a law, and I remember back in February, both trustees Consolino and trustee Fialco had just helping us in our research, found a couple of statutes and a couple of, I think one was from the old Will County ordinance too. Unfortunately, there was a newer Illinois law that came out that basically said other than reasonable restrictions on size, home rule municipalities cannot regulate temporary political signs. And so it's not their fault. It's not, I'm sure different trustees want to do their agenda, which is what they're elected to do. Unfortunately, though, as the code, our opinion, based upon Illinois law, and by reading the ordinance as it stands, those two specific provisions are not provisions that would be unenforceable given the state of Illinois law. And that was just my follow-up, ma'am, to your...
Thank you kindly for that. So, Mayor, could we direct staff to work on shoring up our sign ordinance in compliance with exactly what was just expressed to us publicly? And going forward, we have 2 elections coming up in the next 12 months. This is the whole reason why I had asked, because there's constant squabbling, not just from residents. We also have threats of litigation for violation of ACLU rights. So could we please get on doing this as quickly as possible so that it can come before the board for us to vote on?
That would be something we would bring back to A&F.
Okay.
We would review it in A&F and then bring it back to the board.
I'm good with that.
Yeah?
Everybody else okay with that?
I just want to thank Mr. Pasquinelli, legal counsel, for bringing that forward. Just so you know, your verbiage is exactly what we heard 2 years ago from Olson Start.
Okay.
Gary Horvath, almost verbatim. And I know we came into this, we came with the new board and thought our old, our village manager was in violation of something. So I think this helped cleared up that error, that there was nothing done wrong at that time, although that was the thought, and it was nobody's fault, because you're right. It's very hard to understand all the changes that happened in the, well, not so far, it didn't happen that long ago where those changes came forward.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for clarifying. I just hope with our November election coming up, we can have some kind of at least thing taken care of, Joe, and right? Rose, isn't that what we'd want to see something happen, right?
Yes, Joe, if we can bring this back to A&F and then just review the ordinance and get the ordinance.
By all means, let's do this.
Yes, please, yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
We actually have a colleague of mine, I'm sorry, Mr.
Just real quick, the big question comes into private signs on private property and public property. That's where we have the challenges. Where these signs are being placed, are they on public right-of-ways or are they on private property? I understand private property, freedom of speech, signs, all that. I get that. The challenge that my staff has is when these signs are in right-of-ways, public property, along public roads, county roads, our roads, that's where the challenges come in. And that's where I'd really like to get this ironed out.
Yeah, if we can, now that we have clarification, from Attorney Pasquinelli, I think this will just pave the way for us to correct or amend our ordinances to reflect that. So.
Which one, ma'am?
So what I'm hearing from the village manager, you said that you cannot regulate political signs, but is there a difference between political signs on private property and public property?
And I need to clarify. So the state law preemption is specific to temporary political signs placed on private residential property, okay? So that, in that sphere, the state of Illinois says to all of us that this board, even if, if Trustee Consolino, if Trustee Mason, if the mayor all have an ordinance that they want to pass, they can't, or they could, but it'd be unenforceable in the eyes of the law, because Illinois law has come out and said, other than reasonable restrictions with regards to size, a village like this village cannot regulate in this space, period, okay, when we're dealing with private property and residential neighborhoods. That's Illinois law. People disagree with it, people don't like it. The remedy is to go to your state reps and your legislatures to have that changed, because this board can't do anything about it from an ordinance standpoint. And I know the trustees get calls about this all the time, and my response is, and I'm saying it publicly, and I've said it to Mr. Baby before, and I know Trustee Consolino wanted me to follow up on it, and now I have, is that these two areas would be unenforceable per our village ordinances. Now, signs placed on public property, those are signs that this preemption, or this particular state law that precludes our ability to regulate, the village is free to have regulation and ordinances saying, hey, an individual person or candidate cannot place their sign on public property. And again, the law always has exceptions. There's one exception. On polling day, when you're dealing with election days, a public polling place is considered a public forum. So even if you have restrictions by way of ordinance saying that, hey, you can't put a political sign in a polling area within that outside of that 100 feet electioneering zone, Illinois law says you have to allow it, okay? So that's the one little caveat, and Trustee Consolino, I can work with staff at the ANF or whatever committee you would like me to, and we can work on ordinance on that public sphere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with ANF, and I would also like to review it as well.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, any other old business?
No, nothing.
Okay, moving on to new business. Is there any new business?
I've got one thing if I can.
Trustee Fialko?
I just want to say our next village board meeting, since we canceled this next one on the 26th, will be on July 10th, on that Wednesday. And the other thing is what I came across, and I talked about it with Jennifer Vittori, is I did through Lockport the powerhouse, basically not their little trip they had going down to the generating station, the water generating station in Lockport, and the Chicago Sanitary District was out there. I don't know if anybody else did. It was very, very interesting. The history about it, built in 1907, but nevertheless, the Chicago Sanitary District has things available for our parks. It's a fertilizer that they give away for free and deliver. And I mean, we'd have to look into it to see the safety, the MSD on it, whatever's involved. But we have this opportunity, and I just want to tell the public, and Joe, because I don't think I talked to Joe about this yet, and to let the board know that we might have this opportunity for free fertilizer for our parks. And they said where grass has never grown before, this fertilizer will make and take. And a lot of times people say, does it have a smell?
Did you give
it doesn't.
Did you give this information to Jennifer Vittori yet?
I have it to give to her, yes.
Okay.
I have not given it yet.
Okay, all right. Any other new business? No new business? Okay, is there a motion to go into executive session for 1, discussion pertaining to potential real estate acquisition, 2, discussion pertaining to municipal utilities, 3, discussion regarding pending litigation.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second if we get a 5-minute break.
And you can have a 5-minute break.
Well-deserved 5 minutes.
Otherwise, I won't second it.
I'm sorry, Candace, can you please call the roll?
No, not me.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, 5 minutes. Whew, I am freezing. Oh, Jesus.